Climate change and humans. How are we impacted? Climate change is real. While Earth's climate has changed throughout its history, the current warming is happening at a rate not seen in the past 10,000 years. According to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, since systematic scientific assessments began in the 1970s, the influence of human activity on the warming of the climate system has evolved from theory to established fact. Scientific information taken from natural sources such as ice cores, rocks, and tree rings, and from modern equipment like satellites and instruments, all show the signs of the changing climate. From global temperature rise to melting ice sheets, the evidence of warming planet abounds. How climate change will impact humans. Climate change is the single biggest health threat facing humanity. The impacts are already harming health through air pollution, disease, extreme weather events, forced displacement, food insecurities, and pressures on mental health. Every year, environmental factors take the lives of around 13 million people. How climate change will impact humans. Continued. Meeting the goals of the Paris Agreement could save about 1 million lives a year worldwide by 2050 through reductions in air pollution alone. Avoiding the worst climate impacts could help prevent 250,000 additional climate-related deaths per year from 2030 to 2050, mainly from malnutrition, malaria, diarrhea, and heat stress. Over 90% of people breathe unhealthy levels of air pollution, largely resulting from burning fossil fuels driving climate change. In 2018, air pollution from fossil fuels caused $2.9 trillion in health and economic costs, about $8 billion a day. And in the picture shown, you can see the crops are dying, and that weather and the way air moves across the world is affecting the whole world. How climate change will affect national economies. As you can see on the right side of the screen, the National Greenhouse Gas Intensity measures the quantity of GHG emissions in relation to economic output of a country and is independent of the absolute quantity of GHG emitted. Other ways to represent the GHG emissions are emissions per capita or in total per country. In both cases, the picture changed completely. Countries with high absolute emissions may have relatively low intensities, and vice versa. As with growing economic productivity, efficiency tends to increase, and economic activities shift from industrial to the service sector. On the other hand, countries with high intensity may well have very low per capita emissions. See page 22 and 48. And this was a photo pulled up. And as you can see that some countries have more carbon outputs than others, but as a total, the whole world is putting out carbon into the atmosphere, causing global warming. How climate change will affect the U.S. economy. There is a U.S. congressional report which states the following research suggests that climate change could negatively impact productivity and business investment, as rising temperatures and heat waves could result in lower output per worker. Declines in productivity and production could decrease business incentive to invest, particularly in a scenario in which physical capital is routinely damaged or destroyed due to the effects of extreme weather events to a point where further investment becomes unattractive. The same report further goes on to state, climate change, notably the projected increase in certain extreme weather events, is also expected to affect the overall economy through its impacts on specific sectors, such as housing, infrastructure, and agriculture. Nearly one-third of the U.S. housing stock could be at high risk of climate change-induced hazards, and billions of dollars of property are vulnerable to complete destruction or being rendered unusable by flooding risk alone. Transportation infrastructure, which supports the production of and movement of goods and services, could be damaged with climate change. While transportation systems are typically designed to withstand certain magnitudes of extreme weather events, an increase in the frequency and severity of extreme weather events would increase the residual risk. Heat waves, heavy precipitation, and other storms can additionally cause delays and disruptions on roads, public transit systems, airports, and the like, adding to the cost of production and interfering with consumption. Climate change and foreign economies. EEA data released at the beginning of 2022 estimated that between 1980 and 2020, economic losses caused by climate-related extreme events totaled 487 billion euros. Germany lost almost 108 billion euros, France nearly 99 billion euros, and Italy just over 90 billion euros. The EEA says weather and climate-related extremes made up around 80% of the total economic losses caused by natural hazards in the 27-member bloc. South Asia countries such as Sri Lanka, India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh have greater exposure to floods, water shortages, wildfires, and storms. A report from S&P Global estimates that South Asia may lose 10% to 18% of its gross domestic product due to extreme weather events, 10 times more than Europe. Countries in Central Asia, the Middle East, and Africa also face similar threats, according to the report. Climate change and the global economy. According to a report from Swiss Re, a provider of reassurance, insurance, and other forms of insurance-based risk transfer, climate change represents the largest long-term threat to the global economy. If net zero climate targets are not met by 2050, the world risks losing $23 trillion in global economic output. Climate change and the global economy continued. In the image below is a graph showing that emissions fell over 1.5 billion tons of CO2 equivalent over 3 decades in the listed countries. Climate change and the global economy continued. The global economy could lose up to 18% of gross domestic product by 2050 if no action is taken to mitigate the impacts of climate change. The Swiss Re Institute warns. The insurer estimates this figure will drop to between 11 and 14% if some action is not taken, and could be as low as 4% if the 2015 Paris Agreement targets are met. Europe currently stands to lose around 11% of its gross domestic product, and the U.S. almost 10%, the company's 2021 report suggests. However, Asia economies would be hardest hit, with China at risk of losing almost 24% of its gross domestic product under the most severe scenario, per Swiss Re executive summary. And then you see charts of what climate-related economic losses have been throughout many countries. In summary, through the process of forcing greenhouse gases act on the Earth's climate and alter how heat can leave our atmosphere, Effectively, greenhouse gases trap heat only, allowing it to slowly disperse outside the atmosphere. The four main contributors to this process are carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, chlorofluorocarbons. The most abundant gas is water vapor caused by the warming of oceans, but is not a direct cause of climate change. The current warming trend is different because it is clearly the result of human activities since the mid-1800s and is proceeding at a rate not seen over many recent millennia. It is undeniable that human activities have produced the atmospheric gases that have trapped more of the sun's energy in the Earth system. This extra energy has warmed the atmosphere, ocean, and land, and widespread and rapid changes in the atmosphere, ocean, cryosphere, and biosphere have occurred. Taken as a whole, the range of published evidence indicates that the net damage costs of climate change are likely to be significant and to increase over time, per Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change.